All right, 8th graders, this is task 5, and this is going to be probably the beefiest part because this is where I go through and explain everything you guys need to include on your project. In task 4, you guys got to take a look at different ways of presenting and pitching your product to the boss. And this one, this is going to be kind of what you guys need to include in your pitch. So there's going to be a lot of details. Okay, this is a big project. There's a lot writing on it, and therefore a lot that the team will need to include. On the next few slides, read through all of the minimum requirements that you will need to include in the pitch. So at a minimum, what I'm going to list to you guys is kind of what you guys need, but remember that you guys are competing against other groups to win this pitch. And so with that in mind, your team will probably need to do a lot more than the minimum to earn the commission above all the other teams. Again, remember this is a competition and your goal is to win this pitch. So as you read through each of the requirements, it would be helpful to assign names to different parts. However, and like I said, however you guys choose to divide it, that way everyone has equal things to do. And therefore you guys kind of have some responsibility. With that being said too, if any member of your group is not really upholding their end of the part, I need to know immediately. Let me know sooner rather than later. Don't come to me when your project's late and be like, well, so-and-so didn't do their part and so we were waiting on them. Like, well, why didn't I know at the time? You guys should be checking in with your group members daily, seeing what they completed. You guys should have known that things weren't getting done, and so this is something that I need to know right away. Okay? All right. So here are your guys' things that you need to include again at a minimum. Again, remember you guys are competing against other groups, so the minimum probably won't be enough to win you guys the commission. Okay, so you guys probably want to start your project however you guys choose to present it with some background information. Between day 1, day 2, day 3, you guys did a lot of background work for this. So here's some different things that you need to include for your background information. You need to show me you have knowledge of PCMs or phase change materials. Okay, we have 3 different types that we're going to be using. You guys have information from day 1. If we look back at where you guys read the PCM article, you guys did an activity with PCMs, you did the little lab, you guys learned about the PCMs we're going to be using, you guys read the article, and then day 3, you guys were able to isolate some of that PCM data and kind of see how PCM-A contributed, PCM-B contributed, PCM-C contributed, so on and so forth. Okay. Next background information is some kind of talk. Remember, this is a phase change internship. This is kind of curtailing off of our last unit on phase change. So you guys definitely want to show me some understanding of what phase change is and how it applies to this project. Okay, and that again ties in with this concept of temperature plateaus. So you guys probably want to correctly tell me what temperature plateaus are, what they indicate, how they relate to the PCMs. For that, you guys can use anything from day 2. Okay, we did a lot of work. Those graphs were really good that we annotated. Some of you guys maybe didn't annotate them the best, so if you guys look at your day 2 stuff, maybe look at everyone so you guys have a little array of what's correct and what's incorrect. Okay, you guys had an article that you read on day 2 about temperature plateaus, so you guys can refer back to that. And then as far as phase change goes, you guys had a whole unit that we just studied that you can go back and take a look at as well. Okay, insulating materials, again, we had a day dedicated to that. And day 3, you guys read an article. You guys were able to isolate the different insulating materials and kind of talk about them. And then you guys can also even go back 2 units and talk about thermal energy transfer. Okay, design constraints, I'm going to add that on there, thermal energy transfer / unit. Okay. Design constraints, this was in the request for proposals. It's different than the design criteria. Remember your 3 design criteria were 37-degree average body temperature, minimal minutes outside of that healthy range, and low cost. Okay, the design constraints are different. So what's the whole kind of purpose behind us doing this incubator to begin with? Is it just for funsies, or is there a reason we need to design something like the incubator we've been looking at? So go back to that request for proposals. That article was found on day 1, so you guys should have read that day 1. So go back and look at the constraints, what constraints are compared to criteria, and then again, you guys should be well versed in your criteria by now. But if you need to, that's in our request for proposals. Okay, so that's your first part that you guys should include is your background information or your introduction. Okay, then you guys will start talking about your design. Okay, this is the design that you guys kind of finalized in this project back on task 3. Okay, in that you guys want to include what materials you ended up doing, a description of those materials, maybe why you chose some of those materials, an image of your design. That should be one of the images that you guys posted on slide 9, where you guys stuck the one that showed the incubator with the 4 different PCMs in it, and also with the little box over on the side that showed the insulating materials and how many layers you used of each. Okay. You guys should have reasoning for choosing each material or component. So again, why did you choose PCM A over PCM B or C? Why did you choose wool over fleece or cotton? Why did you choose 3 layers versus 2 layers? So kind of explain why you guys chose or what benefits you have from choosing each of those different components. Okay. After your guys' design, so the next obvious thing should be the data. Okay, you guys should have tested your design and come up with some data. So in this section, you guys want a data table showing your results. Again, that should look, like I said, it doesn't have to look like this, but you guys need to build a nice data table that includes your guys' results. And then, let me go back to my slide. You should have your graphs. So again, this is the screenshot you guys put on 10. And again, it should have all of our reheating, all those different temperature plateaus on there. It should show our kind of legend at the bottom that has baby, PCMA, PCMB, PCMC, the different lines for each of the temperatures, all that kind of stuff. Okay, you should have a good explanation of graphs in that section. Task 3, I talked about, you guys should probably jot down some explanation. Make sure you guys are explaining those graphs correctly. That's where this is going to come in at. Okay, so refine that explanation, and that would be like a little caption you guys have under those graphs. And then an explanation of your data. This should be just a short little, this is the results we got, It's basically we have our data in our data table. Now we're going to explain that data verbally. We're not going to give reasons as to why or how it ties in. We're just going to say, our average body temperature was 36.5. It only spent out of 720 minutes, this many minutes outside of the healthy range, those kinds of things. So you're just gonna verbally tell me about your data, okay? All right, next part is the project summary. And again, this is kind of the beef of it. This is really gonna be what I come through as far as your guys' winning this commission, is this project summary. So how or why did the team prioritize the 3 design criteria? So you're gonna look back at those priorities you made, and you're going to kind of explain to me why. Go sit down. You're going to explain to me why you have these 3 criteria as you do. Okay, your project trade-offs, that's going to be on the next slide, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So see the next 2 slides. And that'll kind of lead us into comparing some of our other designs. We did this in our CER, at least you guys were supposed to, where you guys look at, all right, maybe this was our best data, but it wasn't our best design. Design 2 had the best cost. So you guys would talk about some of your other designs that you guys came up with along the way, whether that was individually or when you guys were doing your group work in task 2, and kind of coming up with some of the different other designs and how they compared. So you guys should have some other data for those to share as well. Let's go ahead and talk about the next 2 slides. So these are your trade-offs. So a trade-off happens in a situation where a design has good results for one criterion, but not for another. So maybe your guys' cost was horrible, but your temperature was really good. Okay, so look at your optimal incubator design. Describe some of the trade-offs you notice while designing your incubator. So you guys will use your draw tool to answer this question. So which criterion did you prioritize? So which one did you guys rank as the most important, your number 1? So go ahead and check that. And then answer these 2 questions. Why did you prioritize this criterion? Again, you guys have answered this before. Why is it the most important? Okay, when you prioritize this criterion, what were some of the trade-offs? Describe what happened to the results of the other 2 criteria. So you guys, like I said, if your cost was bad, then maybe you're going to explain why that's okay. Okay, so when you prioritize this criterion, what were some trade-offs? So you might talk about the cost or whatever it might be. Your guys' might be different. Describe what happened to the results of the other 2 criteria. So does that mean that you guys had a higher cost, maybe a higher time outside of the healthy range? So just kind of use that to frame out how you're going to talk about how you justified why this design is the best. Okay, those are your trade-offs. And then again, use some of that other data in your other designs to describe, maybe we had a really low cost one, but it had a really high value for its temperature, like it would have killed the baby or whatever the case is. Okay, and then how does your design align with your criteria priorities? So does it fit with your priorities or is it off of your priorities? Obviously, at this point, it should fit. Okay, and then think outside the box. How could you make this better? Okay. Last little part of this is you guys should have a quick little conclusion that delivers your final pitch to the boss. Okay, so why is your team's design better than all the rest? That doesn't mean you guys are slamming other groups. Okay, you're just talking about why yours is the design I should pick. So keep it classy there. Okay, that concludes task 5. The last task I'm going to talk about is task 6, which is the grading rubric. So follow up.